In this video, I'll be making this clock as a Christmas present for my son and his family. I'll make the clock. My wife will make a piece of cross stitch that will go in the lower opening. First thing I'll do is mark a center line on the board that will become the clock's face. Now I'll make a jig to route out both openings in the face. My router's set up with the plunging adapter, a collar, and the straight cutting bit. The depth is set at 5/32. I'll get the shoulder down to 1/4 of an inch when I plow the back out. I'll line up the center lines on both pieces and clamp it down. Since the width of these pieces are the same, I just relocated one of the cross members to the correct height. Now I'll add 1/4 inch to the openings and transfer it to the back. This will lay out where I'm going to be routing out the back. These cross members are a 1/2 inch wider and set a 1/2 inch further apart to give me the 1/4 inch shoulder added all the way around. This oak is really hard, so I'm going to take this in 2 passes. Same cross member spaced a 1/2 inch further apart from the lower opening. Now I'll joint the edges of some 5/4 sawn oak stock. I like to mark the orientation of the legs to help me keep everything straight while I cut the grooves and mortises. Now I'll start making the jig for the legs. Now I'll rough out the opening. I'm trying to stay about an 1/8 inch from the line. I like to put down a strip of double-sided foam tape to make sure the leg doesn't move while routing. My router's set up with a flush cutting bit with a ball bearing at the top. I'm going to knock down some of the high spots first. If you try to remove too much of this hard oak, you can chip it, ruining the leg. I know because I've done it before. I'm going to mark where the cut for my 1/4 inch dados begin and end. So I'll check my leg orientation. I've made a mark on the back of the leg where my mortise pocket will end. Now I'll push the piece through and I'll stop cutting at that mark. I'll need to plunge the piece in and run it through for the opposite leg. Now I'm going to remove this blacked out area to create a tongue to slip into this groove. With my upper mortise location marked, I can now mark my lower mortise location. With my mortise set at a 3/4 inch depth, I'll start plowing them out. The bottom rail on the back of the clock is going to be pretty large. Thought that would look a little nicer when somebody looks at the pendulum swinging. Front and back rails have 3 different widths, but all one length. The Stop block is set for the exposed surface plus 1.5 inches, which will give me a 3/4 inch tenon on either end. Now I'll plow out a 1/4 inch groove through all the rails that are getting panels. I'll run the piece through in both directions to ensure the groove is perfectly centered. I'm going to do a dry fit just to make sure everything fits together well before I move on. With center lines marked on my bender stick and lower front rail, I'll just crank it till I get the arch I want. You can see I didn't do myself any favors in the rough out. It's just going to take a little more work to get it where I want it. This clock will have an option to be hung on the wall. This keyway bit will help me plow out that groove. These are the clips that will hold the top on. They'll slip into slots cut by the biscuit joiner a 1/2 inch down. I need 2 panels for the sides of the clock. They'll come from this board. I'll plane a panel that'll go on the back of the clock and the two sides down to 1/4 of an inch. I'll round over all the outside edges with an 1/8 inch round over bit. One final dry assembly. Even though I've already machine sanded all these, I'm going to give them a light hand sanding just to make sure the surfaces are all good and clean, no oils left from my hands or anything like that. The sides on the clock face are floating panels, so I'm going to go ahead and completely finish them, so just in case there's any movement, I won't have any raw wood showing. I'm also going to go ahead and finish the insides and any areas that'll be difficult to get to after the clock is assembled. I'll wipe on 2 coats of a satin poly. I'll give all the poly surfaces a light sanding with a 320 grit paper. I'll wipe on 2 more coats of poly, give it another light sanding, and then wipe on a 5th and final coat. Now I'm going to rabbet out a recess to accept the back panel. I'll do it in 2 passes. I'm going to make a little template to trace onto the back panel. I'll use these glass clips to hold in the back panel. Since this clock could be hung, these recesses need to be deep enough so the clips are below flush. Now I'll drill a finger hole in the back panel. I need to square up the corners of the bottom section getting the cross-stitch piece. It will be getting a piece of museum glass. I've marked the location for the top clips. Now I just need to drill the holes. Now I'll chamfer the top. Now I'll use my glue brush in the corners. The stain won't stick to the poly surface on the face as long as you wipe it off when it's wet. I'll completely finish the bottom just in case this piece is ever hung. Finishing steps are the same as before. 2 coats of poly, a light sanding with 320, 2 more coats of poly, another light sanding, and then a fifth and final coat. I'll use these picture frame spacers to keep the cross-stitch piece away from the glass. Now I need to figure out the length I want the pendulum to be. It comes sectioned with breakaway tabs. You just need to pick the one that you want. We ended up adding a piece of acid-free matte paper to protect the back of the cross-stitch piece. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you watching.